Hello, my name is Keshwani. That's K-E-S-H-W-A-N-I, Keshwani. We are here because we want to prepare for SAT. We have been solving SAT grammar questions out of this book here, the official SAT study guide. If you do not own this book already, purchase one immediately. You're going to need it. The problems that we are about to solve are the ones that you will find on page number 777. Please turn to it. It's 777, and today is our lesson number 35. We are in the process of doing a series of 18 questions. We did the first few day before yesterday. Those were the easy ones. The ones that you find on page number 776, those were the easy ones. Yesterday we did the problems that you see in the first column on day number 34. Those were the medium ones. And now we are about to do the problems that you see in the second column, the right hand side column, which are the last among the series of 18 questions, and they are the hard ones. So let's get going. Number 25. As student becomes familiar, as a student becomes familiar with, to be familiar with something is an idiom. And it's a perfectly fine idiom. There is nothing wrong with it. I'm familiar with the concept. I'm familiar with it. So it's fine. The answer is not A. As a student becomes familiar with both early and contemporary literature, let's forget about both early and contemporary Native American literature. That's a mouthful. As a student becomes familiar with literature, one may notice that, that's the C part, that's the B, one may notice that traditional stories have influenced recent ones. Let's see what we can do with this sentence. Forget about the fact that it is both early and contemporary Native American literature. I left all of that out because that's the boring bits. Let's just concentrate on the juicy bits. As a student becomes familiar with literature, one may notice. You see a problem here? The problem here has to do with what is known as parallel structure. Number 6 in our item. Parallel structure. It starts out with, as a student becomes familiar with literature, it should not say one, it should say he or she may notice that traditional stories have influenced the recent ones. Now, if you didn't want to change B part, if you wanted to leave the one here the way it is, then it should have started out like this. Instead of, if you want to leave B alone, then it should have started out like this, as not a student, but as one becomes familiar with literature, one begins to realize that traditional stories have influenced the recent ones. That would have been fine. But unfortunately, we don't have liberty, we are not at liberty to change the beginning part because the beginning part is not underlined. It starts out with, as a student becomes familiar with literature, he or she soon realizes, may notice, they say, he or she may notice that traditional stories have influenced the recent ones. That's your problem here. The answer is B. The answer is B. Let's go on then. Number 26. John is regarded to be one of the most talented writers of the late 20th century, and is often compared to such literary giants as Ralph and Richard. All of that is just mumbo jumbo. We're not interested in that part. That's not the juicy bits. Let's just ignore it. That's the boring bits. Let's pretend that for as far as we are concerned, the sentence that we're dealing with is the one that you see on the blackboard. John is regarded to be one of the most talented writer. Again, this has to do with idioms. And as I've explained to you many a times before, if you watched the earlier videos, today is our day number 35. If you watched the previous videos, day 1 through 34, as I explained before, idioms are very difficult to master because they do not follow any rhythm or rhyme. They do not follow any rules of grammars. Idioms in a given language is something either one knows or one doesn't. Notice how I said it. Idioms are something that either one knows or you don't. That would not be correct because it's not parallel. It doesn't go together. One doesn't go around saying idioms are something that either one knows or you don't. No, it doesn't work that way. Either one knows or one doesn't. You see, we just did the problem like that. That was the one that we actually just finished. The previous one actually, the one about the student. It shouldn't have said one. It should have said he or she. So here, the idiom that we're dealing with here is John is regarded. Now, if you're a native speaker, which most of you are, listen to your ears as you speak. What do you expect to hear next? What's the next word that you expect to hear if I tell you that John is regarded as, not to be, John is regarded as one of the most talented writer. John is regarded as, not to be. The idiom is regarded as. He is regarded as the most talented. He is regarded as the most brilliant. He is regarded as the most talented. I already said talented. Any adjective that you want to use. Do you understand? That has to do with idioms. Idiomatically, it is wrong. He is not regarded to be. Rather, he is regarded as one of the most talented writers. The answer is A. Next one. Number 27. Number 27. Mastery of cardiopulmonary resuscitation techniques. As you can tell, if I cannot pronounce the bloody thing, I'm not about to write the bloody thing. Let's just do something else. Mastery of these techniques. Mastery of these techniques. That's what you have to learn. That's the whole point of doing this exercise, is learning how to work with the sentence that is given to you. Many a times I see students, they are sitting there wanting to read every bloody little detail in the sentence. They want to pronounce the name properly. They want to pronounce the word properly. Nobody's going to give you extra credit for that. Just ignore it. Just make up something of your own, something simple. What you want to see is whether or not the grammar of the sentence is correct. What exact words they use is irrelevant. Do you understand? Instead of saying preliminary resuscitation technique, just say these techniques. Just make something up, something that you can deal with very easily. That takes less time, and you don't have to worry about that part. It doesn't slow you down. It doesn't break the rhythm of the thing. It doesn't break the flow of your thoughts. Mastery of these techniques are mandatory. Let's look at this sentence. Mastery of these techniques are mandatory. They're trying to pull a fast one because of the fact that their techniques here is plural. Most people forget what the subject of the sentence is. Subject of this sentence is not the techniques. The subject of the sentence is the mastery. Mastery of whatever it is. Mastery of these techniques. Mastery is singular. Mastery of this technique is mandatory. Mastery of this technique is mandatory for firefighters and police officers, as well as rescue squad volunteers. Big deal. That's your problem there. The answer is B. Understand? Or another way we could do that is we could have ignored this thing completely. We could ignore this thing altogether. And now the sentence reads, look what just happened. Look what just happened. The sentence that they had given us in the problem there, the sentence that is given us in this problem there, I'm going to actually count it. Watch, I'm going to actually count it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. It has 18 words. Out of those 18 words, the juicy bits are only 3 words. This is our sentence. This is our sentence. This is it. Mastery are mandatory. You can clearly see the other 15 words that we see in the sentence, they are not relevant. We need to focus only the important bits. What is the subject of the sentence, which is the very first in the list here? What is the subject of this sentence? Mastery is the subject. Mastery are mandatory? I don't think so. Mastery is mandatory. Mastery is singular. In the US, the industrial use of plastic is greater. In the US, use of plastic is greater. Use of plastic is greater than steel. That's it. That's our sentence. That's the end of our sentence. Let's see what we can do here. This sentence also has to do with idioms. Idioms occur a lot. They occur in more frequency, in greater frequency in the harder questions than in the easier ones, precisely because of the fact that I told you before, which is that they are difficult to master for a non-native speaker. For a non-native speakers in any language, idioms are very difficult to master because they have no rhythm or rhyme to them. You just have to know that. The idiom here is that, and again you see it says industrial something something something. I left it out, I ignored it. In the US, the industrial use, to which I simply say is the use, forget about the industrial part. In the US, the use of plastic is greater than that of. The use of A is greater than that of B. That's how you say it, that's the idiom. In the US, the use of the plastic is greater than that of steel. That's our problem. And that will be answer choice D. And then it goes on to say the use of the plastic is greater than that of steel, aluminum, and copper combined. But all of that thing is not something we are interested in. That's irrelevant. The use of plastic is greater than that of steel. The very last one, number 29. The use of plastic is greater than that of steel. The dolls in the collection, again I'm going to leave out the in the collection part, that's just a waste of time. The dolls all more than 200 years old, 200 years old, had been carefully carved for children long since gone. It's a very tricky sentence. It's a very tricky sentence. You have to slow down and you have to take your time. It is tricky, of course, obviously. I say of course and obviously because we know it's the very last one in the series of 18 questions. On a scale of 1 through 18, this one is classified as number 18. Of course it's tricky. You have to take your time. Let's see what we can do with it. Let's see how we can fix this sentence. The dolls, all more than 200 years old, had been carefully carved for children. Long since gone. What is long since gone? What is this long since part referring to? Long since gone, this part here is referring to the children. They are saying that these children are long dead. Of course all of these children are long dead because they're 200 years ago. All of those, the dolls that we have carved for these children, those children are long since gone. Let's read one more time. The dolls, all more than 200 years old, had been carefully carved for children long since gone. Now, if you leave out the 200-year, actually we can leave that part out. If you leave out the 200 years old part, then it will be difficult to infer from it that the children are long since gone. What's wrong with this sentence? There is nothing wrong with this sentence. There is absolutely nothing wrong with this sentence as far as the grammar is concerned. You may not like the sentence, but there is nothing wrong with it as far as the grammar is concerned. The doll, all more than 200 years old, had been carefully carved for children long since gone. Children that no longer exist. That's it. The answer is E. These dolls were carved for children who no longer exist. The answer is E. And that was the end of that part. Tomorrow we'll go to day number 36. As you know by now, it takes me 5 days to cover these grammar questions from one exam. Tomorrow being the day 36 and today being the day 35th. 35th tells us that today was the end of the exam number 7. The book, as I showed you in the beginning of the video, has 10 exams. Today we just finished exam number 7, which means tomorrow we'll start the problems from exam number 8. We have 3 more exams to go, 15 more days to go, and then we'll be done. Today was day number 35. We have 15 more days, day number 36 through 50, and we'll be done with all the 10 exams. Alright, stay with me in the journey. Practice as many problems as you can, as I've always told you, as I've always remind you. The more problems you will do, the more comfortable you will become with these problems, and more you will begin to see how they pull the tricks on you. This is it. This is the list. They don't go outside this list. It's a very small list. Only few items that they're looking for. Just concentrate on the juicy bits, as I always tell you. That's the point here. Learning how to concentrate on juicy bits, and learning how not to waste your time on the boring bits that are irrelevant in the sentence. Understand? I'll see you tomorrow. Okay, I'm done with my sermon. Amen.